On this channel, we've talked a lot about various champions in League and how they've evolved over time. However, the champions aren't the only ones on the Rift that have undergone some serious overhauls. While Summoner's Rift may no longer be considered canon to Runeterra's broader narrative anymore, the various creatures that inhabit it are still part of the world in some capacity. There is one, however, who's been strangely neglected since the beginning, despite being the most iconic monster on the map. I am, of course, talking about the Great Worm itself, Baron Nashor. Among the various mobs on Summoner's Rift that players can kill for gold, XP, and buffs, Baron Nashor is the mightiest of them all. It spawns in at 20 minutes into the game and grants considerable bonuses to whichever team is able to slay it, considerable enough to potentially turn the tides of an entire match. Despite its significance, however, Baron Nashor has strangely always been lacking in the lore department. Nashor's original incarnation paints it as effectively just a giant sea or river monster inhabiting the Rift, though it was also vaguely implied that the beast you fight and kill in-game was actually just a fake or replica conjured by the summoners. The real Baron Nashor was a legendary beast in the old Runeterra, though precious little information was ever actually given about it. Then, in the year 2014, Riot decided to completely overhaul the map, giving it a fresh coat of paint and reinventing some of the monsters inhabiting it. As such, Baron Nashor got a considerable glow-up, as well as a bit of a lore expansion. Rather than just being a random giant worm thing, it was now explicitly confirmed to be a void monster. In fact, we even got a bit of a preview for this new form during the Twist of Fate trailer back in 2013. Despite this notable improvement, however, Baron Nashor never really got much context for this new appearance. It was implied that the Baron existed somewhere in the new rebooted Runeterra, causing enough havoc and inspiring enough fear among mortals to be given a name, but where exactly was kind of left open to interpretation. I remember some theories claiming that it might reside somewhere on the border of Demacia and Noxus, while others speculated that it stalked the seas around Bilgewater. For a long time, that was sort of all we really had to work with. Until, on August 26, 2020, Riot released the Targon expansion for LOR, and introduced celestial units into the game. These cards were meant to represent various cosmic beings in League's mythos, born from the constellations that inspired countless legends among mortals. Among these new celestial units was one in particular with a very familiar design, a constellation known simply as the Scourge. Legends speak of a scourge that lurks at the furthest reaches of the celestial realm. Here, it awaits the time at the end of time, when it will wield the power of the stars to shatter the foundations of the world. Okay, so this thing is supposed to be yet another apocalyptic threat to Runeterra, a harbinger of doom and destruction that will bring about the end of the world. It also very obviously resembles Baron Nashor, but why? How? Did the Void Monster on Summoner's Rift somehow worm its way into the Celestial Realm and become a constellation? Is that even possible? Like, can Void Monsters ascend? At the very least, Soul's line for summoning it implies that this thing is at least inspired by Baron Nashor, though why anyone would base a constellation off of a Voidborn is beyond me. I doubt even Aurelian Sol himself would want to do that, since he cares for the Void about as much, if not less, than most mortals. Unfortunately, we are once again left with no further context. Either Baron Nashor became a constellation or somehow inspired one. Either way, the Scourge definitely implies that the Great Worm is the most significant Voidborn to ever plague Runeterra, which is saying a lot. And that only makes it more vexing that we still don't know much about Nashor's actual role in the broader story. A bit earlier this year, Riot launched a Void event that gave the entirety of Summoner's Rift an otherworldly makeover. Void corruption covers the map, warping the creatures that inhabit it into hideous abominations and spawning new monstrosities in the process. However, perhaps the most significant change in this entire event is that Baron Nashor got yet another visual overhaul, giving it a more vaguely aquatic appearance. Perhaps to tie it into Belvath's Lavender Sea? Unfortunately, it's hard to say, as the event in question has next to no lore tie-ins, and thus, of course, we are once again lacking significant context for this change. Did Baron Nashor evolve? Is this just another retcon of its appearance? If so, then does that mean the Scourge is now just its own completely separate thing? Again, it's kind of impossible to say when we have so little info to go on. But why does it matter? After all, Baron Nashor doesn't really need much in the way of lore, does it? It's a big monster you kill in the game for buffs, gold, and experience. Who says it has to be anything more than that? Well, there's some validity to that argument, but considering that every other creature on Summoner's Rift has a place in Runeterra's world, don't you think it's odd that the strongest of them all is relegated to just being a boss in-game? I mean, even Vilemaw and Elder Dragon have a proper place in Runeterra now, despite the former's also being kinda vague. Baron Nashor, however, is just the big boss you kill for game-changing buffs. When most players think of Nashor, they just view it as an objective on the map, a mob to kill rather than a legendary beast to be respected and feared. This is a monster born outside of reality, immortalized in the stars, yet you'd hardly know it since there are no stories or legends about it that we know of. But what do you all think? Do you wish Baron Nashor had more clearly defined role in the story? Or are you content with it just being a big boss on Summoner's Rift? Leave your thoughts and comments down below, and until next time, stay bright.